If you've ever wondered why Future's beats are so hard, it's not because of the chords or some advanced music theory. It comes down to sound selection, processing, and drum bounce. In this video, I'm breaking down a beat I made inspired by Future's latest sound. I'm going to show you how I built it from the ground up without any complicated music theory so that you know the techniques to make these hard beats yourself. Let me show you how I did it. Like I said in the intro, this doesn't take any advanced music theory, not really any music theory at all. It's all about sound selection. So to start off this beat, I chose a couple different sounds. All right, and these are all coming from the Jup-8000 V from the Arturia collection. Okay, so I picked out these 4 different sounds, and together, without any processing, it sounds like this. Okay, so you can see I'm just playing D, right? Just holding out the D note. This one is literally just one note across the 8 bars. But these sounds that I picked, I'll go ahead and show them to you real quick. They have movement, they have texture. Okay, so we have the Castle Wind preset, sounds something like this. The second one, we have this deep pad. The third one, we're using the Scary Horror preset. Okay, so it does some panning and stuff. Sounds really cool. And then the last one, we have the 7th Siren, which by far has the most movement, the most like unique sound in the thing. And it's really what's building out that melody. Okay, so after that, that gives us that full sound. You have all this like atmospheric texture going on, movement between all these different sounds, and they're all just layered on the root note of our scale, which is D for the D minor scale in this case. The next thing I did was I got this filtered art preset from the Toneflx expansion, the Artist Series 1. So it has an Analog Lab preset run through 2 Toneflexes. So I didn't have to touch anything. All I had to do was create the MIDI, which looks like this. Okay, so we're just playing the D minor triad with another D added on top. So without any processing, it sounds like this. And if we bring that out with everything, it sounds like this. Okay, so it sounds pretty cool, but you're probably thinking that doesn't sound like what you were playing just a minute ago. And that's because there's more processing to be done. So I took all 4 of those Jup-8000 presets and I routed them to this insert right here, number 15, and I threw on another Toneflex. And I generated this preset right here. I have a resampler and a chorus, and with that on there, it sounds like this. Okay, so that makes those pads and leads mixed together, and it gives them more width. It makes it sound a little bit more unique and just gives us a better texture overall. So what I did at that point was I rendered everything out. And once I rendered them out, I have this from my lead, and I have this from all the other Jupiters. Sounds like this. Okay, and the timing was a little bit off. People have said they have latency sometimes when they use Toneflex. It's actually usually not latency. I can't say like for certain that everyone is not latency, but it's usually the pedals you're using. If you're using like the delays and stuff, and you have it on 100% mix, you're only getting the delay. So you're not going to hear it at the initial start of the sound. You're only going to get what comes out of the pedals. So you're going to have to just come in here, use your slide tool, slide it on time, and you'll be fine. So that's sounded a little bit closer. But then what I did was I just chopped up the samples that I rendered out and just took out my favorite parts and smashed them together. So if I copy over those chopped pieces from the actual arrangement, they sound like this. Okay, so that's our melody. It just loops, very simple. You don't have to do anything too crazy. Melodically, some of these beats, if you listen to the real me, there's not even hardly a melody there at all. You just have this like atmospheric, dark sound. That's what we got from our Jupiters. And then you have this accent sound, something crazy. And that's what we're doing with the synth ARP, is just getting that, you know, ear candy piece that really makes it stand out. So at that point, I jumped into doing the drums. So I actually have two different drum patterns in this. We have the A section. If I bring that out, sounds like this. Okay, so nothing too crazy. We can go through the patterns. One of the key things about these future beats is they have hard 808s. There's 808 rolls, but the majority of the pattern is actually very, very simple. Okay, so you can see these first two bars is really what this entire pattern was built on. I literally made that, duplicated it across the rest of the pattern, and then I just found spots where I thought a roll would sound good, an octave jump would sound good, or just some other notes. So you'll see I did an octave jump right here, and then I did a roll right here. Basically, I just split this into two notes. I went down to F and then E, and I did the same thing over here, but I took the F and I did the option U, I believe it is, and turned it into a roll that sounds like this. The other patterns, the snare, it's just on the 3 and 7, nothing fancy there. Hi-hat, again, pick and choose your places to put rolls. Future beats allow you to go a little bit more crazy on the hi-hats, but it's also really cool to leave spaces. I think it's in 1-2, you'll notice that there's a gap in the hi-hats after almost every snare, and that is super dope. It's actually something I considered doing in this beat, but I didn't do that. The bounce snare is just playing off of those main snares, hitting, you know, right before, right after, and then the open hats, I'm just layering with the 808s, and I actually have two open hi-hats, so there's a little bit different tone between the two of them, and it just makes it, you know, it spices it up a little bit more if you have multiple hi-hat sounds. Now for the second pattern, you'll see it looks mostly the same, but there's a couple key differences. The first being the 808 pattern is slightly different. You'll see it follows mostly the same idea, but I changed the ending in the fourth bar. It's a little bit more simple. And then on the 8th bar, I have a triplet roll, an octave jump, and then another triplet roll to end it off. And I layer that with the bounce snare. Okay, so let's just solo these two layers real quick. We listen to that. Sounds like this. So you can kind of hear how the 808 and the bounce snare are playing off of each other in that instance. And it was just a dope thing to put in the beat. You can have those triplet rolls. Layering the right snare and the right 808 together can sound super dope. And these two pair very well together. You have a kind of a light snare with that hard-hitting 808. It's just like, you know, layering the hi-hats almost. But that's a pretty crazy, like, roll pattern right there. That's not something you want to do every 4 bars. That's why I have 2 patterns here. So it's only happening at the end of 8 bars and in other places where I want it to. So that makes up the hook, the majority of it. There is another piece I added, but that came later on, so I'm going to keep working through the process that I did building out the beat. So the next thing I want to do was add some sort of intro to this. So what I did was I took the Jupiter patterns and I put them at the beginning here, cutting the last quarter note there before the drop. And I added in a lead from the Mini V. Now I don't actually have this preset saved, I don't believe, because I ended up using the Mini V again after that for bass sound. But what I did was I picked out a lead, and shout out to Kavi because he showed me this. If you mess with the oscillator 2 right here on this knob and you just move it up and down, it creates this kind of like pitch gliding effect for part of the sound, and it sounds super dope. So doing that, you can hear kind of how I was moving that. I just did it with my mouse. I recorded it into Edison and dragged it out. It sounds like this. Okay, so I dragged it all the way up, and then I dragged it back down, and just let it hold. And then at that point, I also brought in the intail of our ARP, and I reversed it for a transition effect. Okay, and then the next thing was to add the bass, which also comes from the Mini V. This is just a pretty simple bass preset. It is the funk bass. So altogether, the intro sounds like this. So after I finished the intro, it was pretty much done. I brought over the patterns and I dropped the ARP down 12 semitones, so it sounds like this. Right. And then, you know, I just did some different stuff with the drums. We'll check that out in the final playthrough, but there was no other changes with patterns or anything, so not going to waste time with that yet. But there was something else I wanted to add because it just seemed like it sounded the same too much throughout the whole beat. So I wanted one more element that I could bring in and out, and that's when I came up with this piano. So this is using a preset from my upcoming Memphis kit, and before processing, it sounds like this. Okay, so real simple again, nothing crazy here. But it's got that nice little walk down and that gap between the ARPs. It fills up extra space. It gives it a little bit more melodic feel to it, even though, you know, it's still super dark, not super melodic, but just enough to make it a little bit interesting. So I can bring that in and out, and I had another section with it pitched down for the verse. Sound like this. Okay, so it sounded pretty good, but it needed a little bit more processing, and that's when I threw on the Blackmagic Reverb on that. I just played around with some different presets. I ended up landing on this Seance preset. See, by itself sounds like this. So you can hear that real nice reverb on there, making it darker, making it more ambient, and with all the other sounds, it's just fitting so much better into the mix. Yeah, so from there, you know, finish up the arrangement. Let's hop into the final playthrough. Real quick before the final playthrough, if you made it this far, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Smash the like button. Leave a comment. Let me know what you want to see next. Let me know what you thought of the video. Last week, someone requested a future video, so I brought it to you this week. That's the type of stuff I want to do. So let me know what you want to see. I'll make it happen. And don't forget, if you're liking the sound of that Blackmagic Reverb, I have a discount code, Frenchy25. I'll put the link in the description to go check that out. They do have a 7-day free trial, but if you buy it, make sure you use that Frenchy25 code. Get your 25% off, and I get a small kickback from that as well. Let's hop into the final playthrough.